I can't wait for it to be over again.
What do you despise about it?
Just everything. It's just so stressful.
Searching for work right out of college is never easy. Now trying doing that in the middle of a worldwide pandemic and an economic meltdown.
Many students have lost jobs to help pay for school. They've also lost internships, which help them build resumes.
Now they are getting ready to enter the workforce at a time when millions of people are fighting for unemployment.
We spoke to students on the verge of graduation. We wanted to know their anxieties and fears, the pressing questions they needed answers to.
We asked them what the future has in store for them, but how can college seniors know what to do when the rest of the world barely knows what is coming?
I'm Leanne Stahulik.
And I'm Godwin Agaba.
And this is What's Next.
I have currently no job opportunities or offers.
Senior Gabby Herbert had a perfect outline of how her time at Miami studying chemical engineering would lead into a career in paper science, until the pandemic completely derailed said outline.
What is paper science? So it's anything you can think of, like any piece of paper that you can think of, anything from toilet paper, paper towels, corrugated boxes, any and all of that. So going through, starting it from the trees to the final product.
Miami is one of only 7 schools in the country to offer a paper science degree. Pre-pandemic, going into this industry would have basically guaranteed her a job out of college.
Normally they are coming in and asking, how many seniors do you have? Okay, we're getting all of them. But this year, when all of our companies came in, they were like, we know we want internships, we're not sure about jobs yet. So all of us seniors are, instead of like having plenty to choose from, we're all kind of looking at it, wondering what we're going to do.
The risk of spreading the virus, plummeting quarterly in numbers, potential customers staying at home. These are just a few of the reasons employers are hesitant to hire during the pandemic.
According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the unemployment rate in March shot up by nearly 1%, which translates to nearly 1.5 million more unemployment claims.
And with a few weeks left until December graduation, seniors like Kate Whitehair have even less time to finalize their next steps.
When the pandemic hit in March, Kate had one pretty overwhelming thought.
It's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what do I do?
The pandemic threw off their senior psychology major's plans for an internship this summer. It also guaranteed she couldn't easily get a part-time job.
So for the first time since freshman year, Kate found herself struggling with empty days.
In a way, I almost felt like I had nothing to do. I'm just like so up in my head, like, oh, I don't have an internship, and I kind of come to grasp with that, but now I have nothing to do. I have nothing to add to my resume, nothing to build skills, to build connections. So it was this kind of like panic in my head. It's like, oh my gosh, what do I do going forward? Like, what do I spend my time doing? What's going to help me for the future?
Kate's solution? Consider grad school.
She wants to pursue an MBA, applying her psychology degree towards marketing and human resources in the business world. But she didn't decide on this route until recently.
For a long time, Kate bought into the idea that after graduation, she had to get a job, move out, and start her life independently. But living through the pandemic has opened up Kate's eyes and other seniors and parents to the realities we're all facing.
They're fine with me coming home, even up to a year, as long as I am taking classes and I'm like working sometime. So I'm really fortunate to have parents with that kind of ideology, because my parents were both raised in families where you graduate high school, you go to college, you get a job, like you don't live with your parents anymore.
Just to cover her bases, Kate has still attended a few job fairs and applied for positions in the psychology field.
But with the pandemic still raging and everything moved to phone or virtual contact, job hunting suddenly seems way more daunting.
So like this is where like the anxiety goes from like a 5 to like a 10. So I've said this before, is like I'm kind of one of those people who's like gonna sit back and wait for like things to come. I fully believe that things happen for a reason. Like if you put the work in, you know, things are going to come back to you. But that doesn't really apply in this case. And I guess there's nothing wrong with having to do the work, but it does make it more stressful that you have to, I guess, fight for it a little bit more.
Competition for jobs post-grad is ruthless enough, even when there are not a limited number of spots. But adding the stress and complications of the pandemic, and seniors like Gabby and Kate have to work 10 times harder to get any offers.
And nobody knows that struggle better than Taylor Gordon, a political science and statistics major who graduated this past spring. In February, Taylor believed that there would be a plethora of jobs available for her postgrad, especially in an election year.
But it took 6 months for Taylor to finally get what she wanted.
So I was really I had almost lost hope when I got the call that I was offered the job. And I was just relieved more than anything when I got that call, because I knew that finally the search was over, at least for a few months.
Taylor first interviewed for this job back in April. When they didn't immediately get back to her, she decided to follow up and see if they'd come to a decision.
She sent email after email over the summer, finally hearing back in mid-July and getting offered the job in August.
I applied to upwards of 100 jobs, probably more, and I heard back from maybe 7 or 10.
Taylor says half of those responses were no's, and the other half were interviews and eventual no's.
The radio silence and continuous rejections caused Taylor to question whether all the work she'd put into her college career had been worth it.
You gain all these skills and this confidence in college, and you feel like, who wouldn't hire me, you know? Like, I have all these skills, my skills line up with this job, why have I not heard from them? But so many people don't get back to you, which is demoralizing in its own right, because you put all this time into a job application that you feel really confident about, and you feel like you fit all of the requirements, and then you never even get an email back, even saying that you didn't get the job. You just never hear anything. And when that happens over and over and over again, that can be really demoralizing.
But Taylor didn't let these feelings get the best of her, instead focusing on the aspects of the situation that she could control.
Don't take it personally, basically. There's a lot going on, especially now with the pandemic. You don't know where the recruiter's head is at. You don't know who else has applied for that job that might just have a slight edge on you. You know, there's so many factors to this. So just don't take things personally. Don't let it derail you. Just keep going, and one day you will get that yes.
Perseverance and tenacity is the name of the game. That's the hard lesson Gabby is learning right now.
In September, the paper science department hosted a pre-career night for its students. The night was supposed to be Gabby's chance to rub shoulders with various recruiters.
But the pandemic turned the night into a virtual event, with students getting just 5 minutes to talk to each representative.
Can you hear me?
Almost every company was like, we don't know what we're doing about full-time hires. And it was like, great, I almost feel like I'm wasting my time at this point.
Based on Gabby's outline, she had planned to have a job offered and accepted by December, but she now realizes that she's in the job hunt for the long haul, and she has to consider her options.
Gabby's considering alternative jobs in consulting and data analysis, but at the end of the day, her biggest dream is still to find a position in the paper science field.
So I really like the paper industry, and I'd love to go into it, and I'm really hesitant to look outside of it. My dad worked for the same company for 35 years, I think. And so, that's kind of always what I pictured I would do.
Not everyone is as set on a specific plan as Gabby is. 2020 grad Ashley Mickens, for example, considered leading a French tour group, applying to grad school, and becoming a national park ranger before deciding on her current job in data collection.
So I left home on August 3rd, and then I went through some training, and I was in quarantine until August 10th. And from August 10th to September 30th, I was on board, and I did not set foot on land.
What? I thought you guys stopped in port.
Yeah, so we were in port, but the only way you could actually leave the boat was if you were leaving for good. So we were not allowed to get off the boat. We had to stay on the boat, and I think it was specifically unless you had clearance to leave for maintenance of the boat, or you were actually leaving, you had to stay on board.
Ashley collected data for regional planning services on a ship in the middle of the Atlantic. She tracked dolphins, turtles, and whales and wrote reports to make sure the company wasn't breaking any regulations.
After graduating with degrees in environment science, sustainability, and French, Ashley originally planned to put these to use over the summer.
My internship, which would have been working on a research vessel out in the Pacific, it was essentially I would get to learn how to use a remotely operated vehicle, collaborate with a lot of scientists, and just kind of learn how to do research out in the middle of the ocean, which would have been so cool.
The internship, unfortunately, was canceled shortly into the pandemic. But by staying on the company's email list, Ashley learned about her current opportunity that also took her out to sea.
Seeing the ocean every day and just being that close to wildlife and under just such a wide open sky every day was incredible. I got to see a ton of beautiful sunsets, which I still think about every day.
While the data collection expedition didn't have the research aspect Ashley wanted, she still appreciated the chance to escape the COVID craziness on land.
All of us were completely healthy while we were out there, and I kind of felt like things were normal a little bit, which definitely helped the time go faster and made everything feel a little bit better.
But before she found this opportunity, Ashley also faced the uncertainty and anxiety that several 2020 grads encountered. She relied on her friends and family as a support system, finding solace in the fact that she wasn't the only one struggling to find a path post-graduation.
And looking back, Ashley would remind current seniors what she reminded herself back in the spring. Whatever you choose to do will be the right choice for you.
You know, as you're working through this, just realize that it's not anything specific that you're doing wrong. And there's nothing wrong either with taking a part-time job or working locally until the economy gets better. And I mean, no matter what you do in this situation, it's the right thing because there are no wrong answers in this case.
In some ways, this doesn't even feel like my senior year. I know I'm graduating in the spring, but it still feels a million miles away.
And yet it will be here before we know it.
So, Goodwin, what's our plan of action if we're still in the middle of the pandemic in May?
We remember Ashley's advice. Any choice we make will be the right choice.
Just like Kate and Gabby have made the choices that are right for them, so far at least.
Exactly. A lot of seniors and graduates are making these decisions without really knowing for sure what is going to happen next.
And at this point, it's okay to admit that we won't know, at least for a little while. So, to all the other seniors out there who are stressed out about post-grad life, we would just like to remind you.
You are not alone. All of us will get through this together.
We'll experience the same disappointing rejections.
The same silence from a prospective employer.
The same doubts that even after 4 years of expensive schooling,
it won't be enough. We won't be enough to make it on our own.
But hopefully the stories of these 4 women will prove you wrong.
And remind you that there is still hope.
And still a chance for all of us to make out better on the other side of the pandemic.
For now, I'm Godwin Agawa.
And I'm Leanne Stahulik.
And this is What Is Next.